Breaking the cycle to step forward. Authentic conversations from lived experience and a professional perspective in overcoming abuse with Chris and Beverley Ann.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Breaking the Cycle to Step Forward podcast with myself, Chris and my lovely co-host,
Beverley Ann. Hello everyone.
And today we've got a lovely guest who's an actual relative of mine. Her name's Jen, and I'm going to let Jen introduce herself in more detail in a moment. But we just wanted to really shine a light on intrafamilial abuse and generational abuse today. Hence why Jen is fantastically being very kind in sharing our family connection and what's happened to her, and also, you know, how it affects the wider family. So it's going to be a very interesting podcast. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And I love that wonderful accent.
I was just going to say that. Jen was claiming, everybody, that she's from England, and she is, but that accent isn't.
Yeah, living in Northern Ireland now for almost 34 years.
Wow. You sound like you were born in Ireland, though, don't you, Bev?
She does. And when she said she came from London, I was like, that doesn't sound very London. Anyway.
You were very confused, which was quite good. So, Jen, going back to yourself, and obviously you only share what you're comfortable with sharing. And if we ask you questions that you don't want to tell us deep detail, then you just go as far as you're ready to, okay?
Okay.
Now, can you just share with everybody who you are and a little bit about your childhood, please?
Yeah. I'm Jen. I'm 54 in 2 days' time.
Oh, wow.
I was born in London to quite a large family. My mother died when I was 9 months old. She was originally from South Africa. From the age of 3, from what I can remember, I was placed into a children's home in Birchington in Kent. And I was in the nursery part due to me only being 3 years old.
Yeah.
The rest of my family were in the older part. From the age of 3 till I was 6, we were in that children's home. That children's home closed in 1977. And we were moved to another children's home up in London. I was there for, I'm trying to think now, 10 years before I actually moved out, got my own place. So obviously I was working and, got myself a wee bed sit. Obviously during this time, I had a big burden on my shoulders of what had happened to me. I was told that I was not allowed to tell anybody anything because my life wouldn't be worth living. It wasn't until I moved to Northern Ireland when I was 20. And then it wasn't until I was 33 that I felt that I was ready to deal with what happened in the past.
Okay, can we leave that there for a moment and then we'll go back? Beverley.
Absolutely. Perfect timing. Because like you, Jen, I was also in care. So I didn't go into care till I was 4. So we were both very young. And when you said about the ages and how it split up, I remember all of that.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back. First of all, sorry to hear your mum died at such an early age. It's never nice at any age, but at such an early age.
No,
awful.
yeah.
So who looked after you between the age of 9 months and then going into care at 3?
My perpetrator's mother.
Okay.
She took care of me.
Yeah.
Siblings were shipped out to other members of the family in different
Yeah.
places. But I was with her.
With her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your experience of growing up in care? Because everybody has a different experience.
I would say from when I first went into care when I was 3, the abuse was still going on. Even to the point, whenever we moved to the home in London, they didn't have a clue
No.
as to what was going on. And then, I mean, it went on from what I can remember, the age of 3. It was possibly even before that, but until I was 16.
And that resonates with me as well. And so I completely hear you there. The other thing I want to ask you is, did you enjoy being in care? And I know for some people that's a really ridiculous question to ask, but as a care leaver to another care leaver, did you enjoy being in care?
I wouldn't say so much enjoy, but because I was such a young age when I went into care, I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? For me, it was just normal.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't grown up, in a family situation. Obviously, I mean, I had family members with me, but even then, things were difficult. I was always left out of things, because they were always all together.
Yeah.
Even from the first home that we lived in. So it was always, I was like the outsider.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, some of the things that, we did while I was in care, I enjoyed. But other than that, I wasn't brought up in a sort of family orientated um, home, with both parents and,
Yes.
you know, so, but yeah, I mean, I would say, to a certain point, yes, it was enjoyable.
Yeah. Thank you. And when you left, so you were 16,
Yeah.
you went to live in your bed sit. And, I love that word. I remember having a bed sit, and I know you've had one, Chris. These days we call it a studio. Studio flat. But my bed sit back then, you didn't even have your own bathroom or shower. You shared with the house,
Yeah.
regardless of who lived there. So, what happened up until 33? Because we'll come to 33. What happened? Because there's this young girl, care leaver. She's 16 now. She's in her bed sit. Where now?
Um, from there, I met. Well, I used to buy my train ticket from this guy every Monday morning, to go to work, and we ended up dating. And he asked me if I would come to Northern Ireland.
Wow.
And he actually was over in Northern Ireland whenever he phoned me one night, and he said to me, "Oh," he says, "I want you to do something for me." And I was like, "Right, okay." He says, "Well, I want you to go to the drawers and pick a ring." And I was like, "Okay." I says, "Why?" And he says, "Well, because, I want to get engaged to you." He says, "And would you move to Northern Ireland with me?" And I was like, "Absolutely." Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, so that was my big move when I was 20. Unfortunately, things didn't work out, but I stayed because I loved it here.
Yeah.
And I actually came over in the April, and I flew back to London in the June. And as soon as the plane touched down in Heathrow, I knew that that wasn't my home anymore.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
I just had that immense feeling that I knew I'd made the right decision.
Yeah.
You know, so, and been here ever since.
Oh, lovely. Chris, you've got your hand up.
I have, because I don't want to get too far ahead without asking the questions going back. So I noticed, Jen, that you were very careful to say your perpetrator's mother.
Yes. Yes.
So obviously I don't want to name that person.
Yeah.
Can I name the mother?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Frida,
Yes.
our nan, why couldn't she look after you?
I think the reason being was that our perpetrator wanted us all together
Right.
in the one place, because you know, being shipped all over the UK, you know, we weren't together,
Yeah.
you know. So
So I remember visiting Nan's one day, and I remember seeing yourself in a small pram,
mhm,
and I remember seeing the others. I don't know who they were because I was a child myself, but they
yeah,
were toddlers. And I remember Nan saying that she really wanted to look after you all, but she just couldn't because she
yeah,
was on her own. Our granddad had died, hadn't he,
yeah,
like early. And I just, even at a young age, even though we were going through similar but not the same as you,
yeah,
um, I remember feeling really sad that Nan couldn't look after you and couldn't keep you, and that you was going to go into a children's home. Even though I didn't know what that meant because I was
yeah,
young, I
yeah,
just felt really sad that you children were not going to have a family home,
yeah,
even though my home was probably no better than, where you've
yeah,
come from. So it's really strange that as a child you can still have empathy for other children, and you can
yeah.
still pick up on what is going on to a small point.
Yes. I mean,
Um,
I don't really remember much of my early childhood,
no, I bet you
you
don't.
know. I mean, obviously, things that happened with my perpetrator, you know,
Yeah.
I remember all that,
Yeah.
but things that maybe I should remember as a child, you know, as a young child, I have no recollection whatsoever.
And people find that challenging sometimes to understand, don't they? You know, and that's what's so fascinating about you coming on today and both of you talking. You're within the same family
Mm,
dynamic, not
yeah,
necessarily in the actual family. You're very young, but instinctively, like you said, Chris, you felt things weren't right, but nobody actually enables children to have a voice in that respect.
yeah, yeah,
But I also think that your life went one way and our life went a different way, but there's so many parallels between all three of our lives, but especially between your branch of the family, Jen, and our branch of the family. There is
yes,
so much that is
yeah,
so similar, but different. But one of the things I wanted to share, and I don't want to upset or offend any of our family members who might be watching this,
yeah,
but your perpetrator was also the perpetrator for my mum.
yes, yeah,
And obviously, that's got its own impact
mm,
down my
yes,
line of the family. Um,
yes.
do you want to share now as much as detail or as little detail as you want as to what actually happened to
Um,
you?
yeah, of course. From what I can remember, the age of 3, that's from when I know myself, knowing, you know, what I remember at that age. Um, I remember when we were in the home, I was obviously in the nursery. Um, my perpetrator um, had the opportunity to when he came to visit, to actually bath me, put me to bed, whilst I was there, and of course abused me during this time. Also, there was times when he would have taken us away on holidays,
Yeah.
and he would offer us cans of drink before bed, and then if I was placed into the bed with him, when I woke in the morning, I would have been in a separate bed, and one other member of my family would have been in the bed.
Yeah.
I can remember screaming one time, shouting, no, no, at 3 years old, and him just putting his hand over my mouth.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, Jen. And, please make sure you look after yourself, as you're telling us. The drink, when you say you were given drink before you went to bed, what would be in that drink?
Alcohol.
Yeah. What type of alcohol?
I would say lager.
Okay. And to a 3-year-old, it doesn't take a lot of working out.
No.
No.
I didn't like it anyway. And I still don't.
But and this is something that is really hard for people to hear as well, because these are natural things that you would expect a parent to want to do, as in bathing their child, putting their child to bed. But unfortunately, as you know, as I know, there's a darker side to that.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but for a lot more people than we're is being accepted.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Bev, like talking about your story, and if I remembered correctly, it was when your dad got access to you, or when you went home, that the
Yes.
abuse happened.
So
Social services think they're doing the right thing by having these parents involved in their children's lives who are in care. Yet I've heard from both Jen and yourself that you were further abused.
absolutely. So my abuse started beforehand, and we went into care under a court order through neglect. And I understand that when it's neglect, anything that happens has to be evidenced. So there was evidence about neglect, about the state of the house, about how we looked at, but there was no evidence of any abuse, be it emotional, physical, or even sexual. And it was never even considered. It just wasn't part of the court case. So as far as they would have been aware, that it's not evidenced. This is something I challenge today as well.
Yes.
I challenge that today in everyday life, because some things aren't evidence, but we need to be able to open the conversations and ask young children this. I'm not saying that we would have had the language, but at least it enables us to find opportunities later. I personally feel, but I don't want to get too hooked on my own life, because we're listening to you, Jen.
Jen, did you have, now I'm not trying to say you should have done, because I'm not saying that at all, but did you have any opportunities to speak up whilst you was a child and young person? Was you listened to? Or do you feel that you might have been showing signs of being abused, yet no one picked up on the cues? What was your situation?
I would say that yes, there was definitely signs that I was. I was always getting into trouble at school, into fights, down the headmaster's office, nearly every day of the week. But nobody had a clue.
No.
And because what I was told, about not telling anybody, to me, that was, I can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Right. So you were threatened by the perpetrator not to
Yes,
tell.
yes, because, well, basically he said that my life wouldn't be worth living if I did,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you
that's
know.
normal. That's what they usually do. Yeah.
Yeah. And, for things for him to come out with, like, during the abuse, he would have brought my mum into it. He would have said, oh, your mum would have been so proud of you and all this. Do you know what I mean? And I'm
I
like,
mean,
hold on a
how
minute.
twisted, Jen?
Yeah.
How twisted?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, how can she be? She's not here.
Yeah.
If she was, then this wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's many as a time I thought, geez, I wish it was the other way round,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can understand that.
yeah. But I mean, because from what I've found out since, I mean, he would have abused my mum.
Yeah.
He would have given her drink,
Yeah.
just so that he could do whatever he wanted,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, she was only 26 when she died.
Yeah.
She'd had 6 pregnancies in 6 years,
Wow.
and 3 of those was with twins.
Wow. Wow. So I always say about my mum had 8 children, but she kept 2. 2 were adopted out, and she was sterilised at 25.
Wow.
And my dad was older than my mum, 8 years older. So I do understand that my dad also controlled my mum. I can see that.
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I can see
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Wow. So it's a lot of children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Picking up.
If they'd all survived, there would have been 9 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Picking up
But
on the family and generational thing, just for a moment. Obviously, we've got Nan and we've got her children, which are our mums and our dads and
yeah.
everyone else in between. Um, there must have been something that happened within Nan's branch of the family and maybe further back for it to go into different children of hers who are then
Yes.
passing it down to us and not
Yes.
treating us in the right way. Do you think anything about that ever?
I do, because Nan wasn't all that nice to me.
Right. Yeah.
She would force me to sit on my potty.
Yeah.
If I didn't do anything, then I was hit.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think my perpetrator would have seen that as well, and thought nothing of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that Nan would have done that to them as well, though? And then maybe what I'm trying to get at here, I'm not
Yeah,
trying
I
to
would say
excuse
yes.
anybody,
No.
not excusing anyone's behaviour because we all have choice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's that learned behaviour
Mm.
and not getting what you need or getting what you need and then not, responding or treating other people with kindness and respect and proper love and nurture. So I'm just
Yes.
trying to unpick a little bit using
Yeah.
our family as an example
Yes.
as to where does it come from and why didn't it stop? We've all stopped it here,
Yes.
but they
Yeah.
didn't.
No.
Is it a timing thing?
I don't know. I mean, from what I know, our granddad, Frida's husband, apparently he was abusing their children too.
Wow.
Yeah. Here we go.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, but it's like I said to you before, Chris, they had the opportunity to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At their generation.
Yeah.
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 But why carry it on?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the things when people say, I remember as a young mum, You know, I was in full, when I realised I was pregnant, my biggest fear, because of the messaging going around, was, oh, because I've been abused, does that mean to say I'm going to abuse my children? And that was one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
And even like Chris has said, like when you're cleaning your baby, it's like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it too much?
Yeah.
So I have
And
no.
that is
Sorry.
quite a common fear, Bev,
Yeah.
for a lot of victim and survivors, yet it's not spoken about.
No.
Because there is this myth out there that if you've been abused, you will go on to be an abuser, which we all know is a myth.
Yeah.
However, what is correct is abusers will usually have abuse in their background.
Yeah.
Yes. But I don't like it being used as an excuse. And when I hear someone say, oh, I know, but when I hear people say, oh, but they were, I'm like, well, they should know better then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's my anger coming out. I own that.
So, Jen, going back to your experiences, so you got married, and how was that marriage, the first one?
I thought he was the love of my life. Not. He wasn't all that bothered whenever I said to him that, you know, I was going to, you know, go to the police over what had happened.
Yeah.
It just sort of, anything I told him just went in one ear and out the other.
So you had no support?
I had no support whatsoever. You know, which was really difficult, because you would expect your husband to, you know, to actually be there to support you, you know. I mean,
What
like,
is it you felt you needed from him?
I needed to be shown that affection. Do you know? I need to be shown support.
Yeah.
You know, but he was never there. He was always working. Even after our first son was born, he was straight back to work. And I ended up with postnatal depression.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to cope with a newborn baby.
Yeah.
You know.
Did any of what you went through as well, did any of that impact come up when you were pregnant or postnatally for you, do you think?
Well, I had to have fertility treatment to get pregnant. And was told that because of what had happened in my past, that had made me the way I was. I had to have treatment for all three of the children that I had, you know, which was hard for me, because it was like, you know, I didn't feel like I was a proper woman.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, well, you know, you need drugs to just to be able to conceive a child.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, always wanted children of my own, you know, and I did end up losing a first child at 5 months. And that would have been the children's elder sister. You know, they know about her. You know, so it was hard to deal with.
It's devastating, isn't it, Jen?
Yes. Yeah.
And I say that I lost my first as well, and it's devastating.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the, you know, like the impact of not being able to fall pregnant.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you try for so long and nothing, you know, and then of course then you both get tested, and then you find out it's actually, you know, the woman that's got the problems, you know. But I mean, it was difficult to come to terms with, you know. It's like, you know, that has happened to me as a child, and it's made me the way I am now, you know. So, you know, wanting to try for children and not able to have them naturally.
Yeah, because the impact lives on, and
Yes.
that's what some people don't understand. They think, oh, that was back then. No, it's not back then.
No.
it's
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 still
today,
played a
it's every
part.
day.
Yeah.
You've
Absolutely.
got
Yeah.
the psychological damage, the emotional damage, and the physical damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you had
Okay.
3 children,
I
which
had
is
3
wonderful.
children. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're amazing. So they're great kids. Couldn't ask for better children.
Lovely.
Not being biased, but but no, never ever had a day's bother with them.
Yeah.
You know.
Good.
So did you go to the police when you were still married, or did you go later?
Yes, I went while I was still married.
Yeah.
It was actually my mother's relative went to the crematorium, and she spotted him there
Okay.
for my mum's anniversary, and she confronted him, and his reply was, "You can't prove anything, and nor can they."
Oh.
And she told me that,
Mm.
and that played on my mind for a whole year.
Yeah.
And then, to say, when I was 33, I felt ready to deal with it.
Yeah.
So then I went to the police over here and filed the case, and they sent it over to England.
Mhm. Now, as we know, the justice system is challenging, and we're not asking you to go through every step, Jen, but for you, if you could share with us, what was it like for you going forward to the police?
I knew I was ready to deal with it, but I was scared.
Yeah.
It wasn't a case of would anybody believe me or anything like that. It was a case of it's my word against his.
Yeah.
And from him saying, oh, your life wouldn't be worth living if you told anybody, and then the comment that he made to my mum's relative, they can't prove it, nor can you. For me, it was a case of I had to, I had to put it out there. I had to make sure that I was believed.
Yeah.
And it was the only thing that I could do, that I felt that I was able then to move on with my life.
And did anybody else come forward at that time?
Yes, one member of my family came forward as well. And also my brother, who has sadly passed away recently, came forward and said that he had seen things he doesn't think he should have seen at that age.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely taken its toll on all of us.
Yeah.
To the point where now I don't have any contact with them.
No. And sadly that happens so many times as well, because the trauma's so much.
Yeah.
That it isolates each of you, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely does.
What was the outcome for your court case, Jen? Sorry to cut in.
No, you're right. He was found guilty and was given 15 years for everything.
Yeah. And usually I would go,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how long did he do?
8.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which I think is disgusting, because he was told at the final hearing that he would not be eligible for parole until he had done the full 15 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I think is disgusting.
Yeah.
But I found out that he was given a job by the governor inside the prison. So of course, good behavior and all that, and kept him away from other prisoners that could potentially do him harm for what he had done. So of course he got out after 8 years.
And again, that's another impact on you, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you told us that your court case actually started on your mum's birthday.
Yes, it did. I actually went over the week before because the court case was due to start, but then there was a case that was going on longer
Mhm.
that they expected to finish, by our date, but ended up taking a bit longer. So I came back to Northern Ireland and then flew back then the week after to actually go to court on the Monday, which was my mum's birthday. And for me, that just, I knew that I'd done the right thing.
Yeah.
I knew that she was watching over me that day. She was supporting me from wherever she is.
Yeah.
And I knew that because of that date, the date that it actually started, that I knew that I was also getting justice for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
after the court case finished, we often, hear and we assume, because we make a lot of assumptions, court case is finished. Yeah. What impact did that have on you, Jen?
After I had obviously been into court, said my bit, for me, it was like a whole weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt free. I felt I could move on with my life, even though, I was still having flashbacks, nightmares, quite often. It was always been there in the back of my mind, but I knew that I had got justice for what I thought as a child was my fault.
Yes, absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
and I knew that what he had said to me, about my life wouldn't be worth living, I knew that my life was worth living because I felt I had done the right thing for myself and obviously, for my mum too.
Yeah, at 100%.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody listening or watching right now, listening to your story, and they haven't been able to tell anybody even, because there's a lot of people out there that have been unable to even share it, what
Yeah.
would you want to say to them?
I would say go with your gut. Don't listen to what perpetrators are telling you.
Yeah.
They're just trying to tell you things which keeps them out of trouble.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But go with your gut. If you're ready. And as frightening and scary as it is to actually go to the police, do it, because it is a whole weight lifted off your shoulders. At the end of the day, fingers crossed, you get a conviction, but don't be afraid to actually go and speak to somebody, even if it's a complete stranger.
Yes.
Go and speak to somebody. At the end of the day, it's going to be a lighter feeling on yourself. You're not gonna have to think years down the line, oh well, I should have done this, I should have done that. you know um just go with your gut.
Yes.
go
Thank you.
go with it, and just go and speak to somebody.
Yeah. And
So
I'm so glad that you got a result, because not everybody gets a result, do they,
No,
Chris?
no.
no, they don't, as we know. So the stats at the moment, Jen, is like 3% of all sexual abuse, sexual violence cases get to court, and only 1% gets a conviction. That's
Yeah.
how low it is.
That's
Okay.
disgusting.
So the fact that you have got a criminal conviction is
Hmm.
amazing. And some other survivors that we've had on this podcast also got a criminal conviction, which I think is amazing. But there's equally tenfold more of us that have gone through that system and we just haven't got anywhere with it.
Yeah.
So I do applaud when we do get convictions. But did it solve everything for you overnight? You know, we've heard the impact on your health, we've heard the impact on your family, and we've also heard the impact on your relationship. Did you actually find any love after all of this?
I did find love again, 10 years later, but that didn't last long either. I discovered then that my then second husband had his own issues. So we ended up splitting after 3 months of marriage.
Oh,
Wow.
I have now finally found somebody that means absolutely everything and more to me. And we recently got married in September. And I couldn't ask for anybody better.
oh, that's lovely
You know,
news.
he has been through similar things to myself.
Yeah.
We actually did meet when we were younger. And all these years down the line, we've got together and now happily married.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's so important for people to hear that as well,
Yeah.
because you've got an amazing strength. So, who supported you through all of this? I mean, have you had therapy? You know, what support have you had for yourself?
I had counselling before the court case with Nexus, a company over here, you know, that gives counselling for people that have been through abuse and what have you. And I would say I probably had about year and a half's counselling before the court case, which definitely helped me immensely.
Yeah.
You know, and then you know, with actually going into court and having to deal with that, you know, but and the knowing that, you know, everything wasn't my fault, you know, a child so young, you know, it's not your fault.
No.
None of it's your fault.
No,
None of it is your fault.
you don't know what abuse is at that age. You know, it carries on for so long, you just expect it to be something normal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I had out of body experiences during abuse as well, which is really frightening, you know, but it's like, I don't know, it's like, I mean, the whole weight that has been lifted off my shoulders, you know, and I mean, like years ago, I couldn't watch anything on TV. I couldn't listen to the news, anything about abuse or, you know, rape or anything like that. You
Yeah.
know, anything in the newspapers. I couldn't even look at it.
No.
Couldn't look at it at all. But now I can.
Yeah.
You know, and
And
I'm more than happy to talk to people about it and, you know, what I've been through, because, you know, for me, dealing with it has changed my life.
100%, 100%. And Chris, just to give you a time check, we've got about 5 minutes. I can see your hand is up, and we
It
could carry
is.
on talking as ever.
But I just wanted to touch upon, whilst you was going through all of that yourself and your family, we, another branch of our family, we were going through something similar. So how did you and our family reconnect?
Well, our nan, Frida, died,
Mm-hmm.
and I went over to the funeral
Yeah.
with my perpetrator. At that time, I hadn't, you know, obviously I was still in contact with the perpetrator. Um, and I gave my phone number to your brother,
Yeah.
my cousin, and he, since that, you know, years after, I changed my number and what have you, and he actually reached out to um an ex-sister-in-law of mine, and she contacted me, so then I contacted him,
Yeah.
And that was 16 years after Nan's funeral that
Yeah.
we finally got back in contact.
Yeah. And it's so strange because I know that my brother, I won't name him just in case it doesn't want to be named, he was on his own journey of trying to understand what the hell had happened, the impact on him, on his family, and all the rest of it. And I wasn't quite ready when he was doing all of these contacting. And you'll find that within your own family dynamic, not yours, but survivors, that some are ready, some are not, some are in denial. It just has a completely different impact on everybody. But then once obviously my brother got in contact with you, you started speaking, we started speaking. I launched the book. I've done all of this work on child sexual abuse, etc., etc. One thing that I really wanted to just touch upon whilst it popped up in my head and before Beverley says time's up. When I was trying to hold mum accountable for her role in the abuse of us children or not stepping up to protect us.
Yes.
She was round my home, this house here where I was living. She was sitting on the settee and she kept saying to me, why do my children, my brothers and sisters, not see her? And I said, it's because you didn't protect us.
Yeah.
You went along with the abuse or you contributed to the abuse. You were a perpetrator in some of the physical abuse against some of my siblings. And she was like, she goes, well, she almost went childlike on me, Jen. And she turned around and she said, well, my brother abused me and no one protected me. And that's when I got a glimpse into like the complete victim mode of maybe some people, what they do. It's almost like, and my heart did go out to her in that moment. Because I'm like, okay, well, someone should have, stood up and protected you and helped you. But you also had a choice in stopping and not perpetrating yourself. And she didn't, unfortunately. And that's what also has caused damage amongst my siblings. So I remember my mum fondly in certain circumstances, but I also do not forgive her and I do not condone what she did to my siblings, okay? And some of them can't understand me even giving any kind of empathy or sympathy towards my mum. But she was in 2 domestic violence relationships. She'd been abused by her sibling. She'd not been protected by her mum and her dad was not around. So I can see the picture. I can't condone what she did because it had an impact on my siblings. But I also do feel a little bit of empathy towards her situation. But I mean, she's no longer with us now anyway. But I know we can't go into it because it's not our stories, but we've got all of this kind of impact in all branches of our family, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely. And, thankfully it's stopped at our generation. I even spoke to my children and told they know my full story. And I just wish that people would understand that it doesn't have to go on generation after generation. For the main thing, it's wrong.
Not just morally and ethically wrong, it's criminally wrong.
Exactly. And thankfully my perpetrator was found, was convicted. And at the end of the day, they have a choice. If they want to carry on, they carry on, but take the consequences. Say thankfully in our generation it's now stopped, and hopefully people will see that they don't have to live through all that. Speak to somebody.
Yes, absolutely.
Be heard.
And I think it's equally as important to have these conversations across family branch lines as well.
Absolutely.
So that, because Bev, when we don't talk about it and it's our norm you will get some members moving down the next generation with that as their norm, and they don't know no different. But because we've experienced different, we know what's right, we know what's wrong. We've actually gone and got help with our impact, so we don't pass it on.
And the thing is as well, within a family, you think you're the only one, or possibly you might be one of two. But even 10 years ago, I found out that other members of my family were victims of my dad, you know, and he will never be convicted. He passed away. And I say, thank goodness I chose not to go to his funeral. No way. But again, it causes huge fractures, and it's such a shame because really we just want to come together. So I just want to say, Jen, you know, obviously this is my first time of meeting you. I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. I know you and Chris, you know each other so well, but you know, it really does bring home that message to anyone listening, to any victim or survivor who's listening or watching. You know, you are not alone. Wherever you are, you know, please reach out for support initially. Talk to someone. You know, this is not your fault.
There is support out there. There are people that will help. You know, and that can help you deal with the situation that, you know, is present in other people's lives.
And what we'll do is we'll share the Nexus link, and we'll share the survivors support as well. Link underneath. So if there's anyone thinking I'm ready to speak to someone, you can. But also for people that are supporters that, you know of someone who's been abused, or they've got concerns, or they don't even know what to do. So having these conversations helps to raise awareness, education, and it's so important.
Absolutely.
So I can't say thank you enough. Thank you doesn't seem the right word.
You're more than welcome.
As one care leaver to another and one survivor to another, I'm giving you a big hug.
Thank you.
Huge hug.
No,
Chris?
if this can help anybody else, you know, then, you know, get it out there.
Absolutely.
You know.
And one last thing, and we always do this, self-care. What are you doing for yourself this afternoon for self-care after recording this?
I'm just going to chill out, watch TV.
Lovely.
With my doggies. One of them's pregnant at the minute, so
you
know, so she's 5 weeks pregnant.
Oh,
so,
lovely.
Early days.
Yeah, so give her cuddles.
And what type of dog is she?
She's a Yorkshire Terrier.
Oh, feisty then.
She can be. She can be, but thankfully, since she's become pregnant, she's different dog.
Lovely.
So.
And Chris, thank you to you as well, because, you know, this is what we want to do. We want to share everything, but to also have the courage yourself to continue to share, and, you know, with your own family, extended family as well. Thank you, because it's so important. So time to say goodbye. If there's anybody that's got any questions that they'd like to ask, or any subject that they'd like us to cover, as always, you can contact us by emailing breakingthecycle2stepforward@gmail.com. If you're listening to us on podcast, please follow us and subscribe. And if you're watching us on YouTube, remember to push that subscribe button so that you get all the additional sessions coming up in the future.
They're called notifications, everybody.
Yes, that's the official word. So for myself, Jen, Chris, goodbye, everybody. Everyone. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for having me on too.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.